G'day, Phil East here from coming from magnificent Gippsland today, just for the RoB Academy and Referrals Over Breakfast Network. We've got Chris Dobbin from RoB Academy and Cube Social, and also Tamara. Yeah, good, Chris, good. And you're in sunny Ballarat, are you?
I am in sunny Ballarat. Yeah, I got back early tonight, so no me driving home. I actually get to sit here and relax with you guys and listen to all the entertainment that comes through. But
I was going to say,
where I can help out. So.
You can join in. Very
yes.
Good. And we've got Tamara, Reyne and Adrian from RedZed who are going to be sharing, dropping a bit of knowledge on us tonight too. So thanks for joining us, guys.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Very good. So tonight we're talking finance and lending and money, stuff that none of us have enough of, and we always want it at the most inopportune time. But there are things that we can do in our businesses and in our lives to make us finance ready. So if the need arises, if an opportunity pops up that we want to take advantage of, if something's on the go, it makes it quick and easy when we go to our local lender and give them the best chance of helping us. So welcome to Tamara and Adrian. So that'll probably be where we'll start for our first thing. What do we need to have organised to be finance ready before we come in and see you guys, so we're getting the most out of each other's time?
Yeah, absolutely. So finance these days, it's certainly changed. The landscape has changed for us over the past.
Sorry, Adrian, if you just move forward a bit, we just the microphone's probably a little bit soft there. Sorry, I don't want to miss out on anything. A bit hard of hearing.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the finance industry has certainly changed a lot over recent years, especially with regulation hitting our industry several years back, and so applying for a loan these days is certainly a lot different to what it was in the past. And financiers, lenders such as ourselves, and brokers and clients are sort of feeling those changes. But more importantly, what it is these days, with with most loans that are being done to individuals are treated in what they call a regulated environment. And these days, lenders have to jump through a lot of hoops to prove or demonstrate that the loan that somebody is applying for is not unsuitable. So it's a lovely double negative there, but
so what you're telling me, the tide has turned a little bit, and the lenders are having to jump through as many hoops as the borrowers, or is it not quite as many, or what?
No,
What's the go there?
Absolutely, yeah. Look, these days we've got to cross our T's, dot our I's, that's for sure. And we've got the watchdogs looking over us all the time to make sure that we are considering lending in a responsible manner. And a lot of this has come off the back of the lovely stuff that came out of America many years ago, which caused the GFC. So there's a lot of unconscionable lending done over there, and the world's felt the impact of that, I suppose.
Yep.
And that's, and look, it's a good result, because unfortunately there's a lot of people, innocent people, got caught up in that debacle. And so, Australia always had a pretty robust and secure type lending industry, but what regulation has done is just put a lot more caring arms around it, and we're just making sure that lenders behave in a way that they should, and are only giving out loans that people should be able to manage.
So just on that, I know it might be a little bit off, but on topic there, hot topic a little while ago was the Royal Commission and all that. Has that made it any more difficult for me or Chris as a business owner to go and borrow some money?
Very good question. Very good question. Look, the powers to be are suggesting that it shouldn't have made too much change, but in reality, it's caused a lot of confusion. And we're waiting on, when regulation hit our market, the Responsible Lending Act that was issued by ASIC it was done through the Regulatory Guide 209. A lot of work being done on that at the moment to have phase 2 of that come out, which has really sort of been come to due to the Royal Commission. So what we're seeing is, unfortunately, in the marketplace, a lot of lenders are a little bit confused because we're still waiting for some of that guidance. And what it has resulted in is, lenders are certainly asking for a lot more things these days because of that.
Very good. Now, Tamara, we did have a fellow RoB member, Josie, on a while ago, and you can go back into the YouTube there of Referrals Over Breakfast and check that out, because it was all about why you need to keep track of your numbers and sole point accounts, making sure all people's financials and their day-to-day accounting was up to date. I presume that would be one big thing that people would have to bring along if they wanted to come and see you about getting some cash.
Yes, they would. We do specialise in an alt doc area where we understand that, you know, sometimes the self-employed people don't have their financials in order. So, you know, sometimes they won't have them up to date. So yes and no, we're more than happy to look at people that do. But predominantly we do look at people that are moving towards an alternative verification option.
So Tamara, in saying that though, how far is out of order? Like, what are we talking about? Like, is there some kind of minimum? Like, do they have to have something that you can sort of go against? Like, I guess just to help the small businesses out, because some of us are still shoebox business owners out there, but a lot of us are using Xero and other platforms these days. So how up to date do these things need to be to help you help us?
I don't know if you'd...
You can answer Adrian as well. It's not a...
I might pass that on to him, because it's not necessarily a minimum. You need to be, you know, registered for, you know, a minimum 12 months in your business, and we'd be happy to look at you with that sort of a minimum. But in regards to your financials, well, I guess that goes into, you know, a minimum 12 months.
Yeah, I suppose if I can go on top of that, Chris, you know, there are different lenders in the industry. So your mainstream lenders, being the banks, are very rigid in their criteria for a self-employed borrower in particular, where they're wanting to see that you've been in your business for a good couple of years, they've got 2 years financials that have been audited and submitted to the tax department, and they will work off that criteria. And it's quite rigid. Then there are other alternative lenders, which RedZed is considered one, where we will look at things a little bit differently. Now, you've got to think of it, banks sort of, they're big juggernauts and they're dealing with thousands of customers on a daily basis, and they have to have systems that can cater for that. Self-employed, unfortunately, it's not straightforward. They don't get a pay slip that AYG applicant may have, and those sort of applicants go quite quickly through a computer system. Self-employed are a little bit different. So what we do as a specialist lender in the self-employed space is not only we will look at financials, but we have alternative methods of verifying somebody's income. So we cater to that person who is, you know, new to business, so 12 months or more, or as we see from time to time, haven't done their tax returns for 2, 3, 4, 5 years in some instances. They obviously, the ATO gives them a bit of a slap over the wrist. But,
we certainly don't advocate for that here at RoB. We love our numbers.
Yes,
we advocate that people really, if they want to actually make sure that they're going to get the cash, and the best thing for their business is to get it and get their numbers up to date. 5 years, wow.
You'd be surprised. We see it from time to time, and it's generally your small business owner who's just busy in his day-to-day business and just hasn't allocated the time to do it. So unfortunately, that it does happen, and in times these people feel quite lost. There are solutions for them. So part of the solution is we encourage them to get everything up to date, but if they need to borrow in the interim period, there are ways that we can verify their income.
All right. Now, speaking of up to date, I am a little bit behind because I was actually at the start. I neglected to mention the exciting competition that you guys have got on at the moment. So I know there's a magnificent opportunity there for business owners, and in particularly members of the Referrals Over Breakfast group. So hang in there, and I'll get you to share that with us a bit later on. So for those listening in, make sure you stay tuned.
To the end.
So to clarify, RedZed, it's you're a lender. You're not a broker. You're a lender. Yeah. And so I'll need my financials. Security, do I need security or what happens there? Yeah, so what sort of security do?
We're the residential or commercial, and then it's also going to be postcode, I guess, determined, yeah. So, yeah, absolutely secured residential, commercial.
Yeah.
So we're a mortgage lender. We unfortunately at this stage don't cater for unsecured lending, and we don't cater for sort of asset finance or leasing type facilities at the moment.
So if I want, if I need a cash injection in my business to fund some debtors, or I need some
growth stuff,
equipment or whatever, I can actually secure that against my house or my business premises, and you guys will give me the money for that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, Phil, I think a bit large percentage, I think about 60% of the lending that we provide is for self-employed people to invest in their business. In a lot of cases, it's them buying their own house or refinancing investment property. But a large percentage of what we're doing is providing funding against either their house, their investment property, or even their commercial property to invest in their business. Now that could be simply cash flow. They might be going through a period where cash flow is down. Or it could be to buy plant and equipment. So rather than taking out a hire purchase or a leasing type facility, they want to secure it against the residential or commercial property.
Is there any quantifiable amounts on that front? Like, is it like you have $1 million property, so you can borrow 100 million, or is it like you have $1 million property and you can only borrow 500,000, or like how does that kind of work?
Yeah, there are some guidelines around that. As a general rule of thumb, we won't advance anything higher than an 80 to maybe 85% ratio against a residential property, and up to 75% against a commercial property.
Right.
And as far as loan sizes, again, it varies between lenders and the different types of lenders. But we're sort of looking to playing in that 3 million and below space. Whereas obviously the banks and so forth, the world your oyster there, they've got authorities up to a lot higher levels. But we're sort of playing that 3 million below space.
Yeah.
And the commercial is an interesting one for us as well. There's a lot of people who are sort of typically using bank financing against commercial properties where their term loans sort of sit at a 10 to 15 year sort of term, whereas a lender such as ourselves could look at a facility that's sort of 25 to 30 year terms, which for a self-employed person that has a big impact on their cash flow. And so, and as we know, a lot of those debts are sort of potentially tax effective as well. So having greater terms on some of those commercial facilities is also quite beneficial.
And so that's 30 years secured against commercial property, yeah?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the other benefit we have over, say, a regulated entity, an ADI, so a bank, we don't have to do annual reviews on commercial properties, whereas a bank does. And again, that for a self-employed person can be a heaven sent. So,
does that mean you guys don't charge annual review fees?
Well, we don't have annual review fees, no. But more importantly, Phil, is there's unfortunately self-employed people that we see coming through our door come to us from a bank, and they've been basically paying their loan on time, month in, month out, and unfortunately, somebody sitting in a lovely ivory tower has forecasted that their industry might be heading for trouble. And obviously, they do those annual reviews and send valuers out, and quite often they may be asked to reduce a facility down, and it can be quite troublesome for a small business owner who has potentially done nothing wrong and been a good customer all the way along. So having a facility that isn't reviewable is a heaven sent.
Now, there's plenty of options out there. As you've mentioned banks, I've mentioned brokers. You've got you guys and your market. How do I go about finding a lender? What attributes do I need to look for, or where am I at there?
Very good question.
Very good question, Phil.
Look, obviously,
they thought they were just sitting back challenging, just relax. Phil's just going to feed them and they'll just answer. No.
That's some great questions.
Absolutely.
Look, it is. It's a great question, and it really comes down to what is each individual person's needs and objectives. There are a lot of lenders out there. If I look at a mortgage broker, they're potentially credited with anything, anywhere from sort of 20 up to 50 lenders that they may have access to. And across those, they may have somewhere in the vicinity of sort of 600-700 types of products that might be available. And it really comes down to what is your particular need. And we support mortgage brokers. In actual fact, that 95% of the business that RedZed get is through mortgage brokers. We do have our direct team, which Tamara is part of, obviously, so people can come to us direct. But the brokers provide a valuable service out there in our industry, and they are effectively an old-style bank manager, really. The bank manager of yesteryear had relationships with their borrowers at great depths, in particular self-employed people. They understood their businesses. And that broker sort of filled that void. And the broker has an obligation these days to actually do a thorough research with every applicant on what their needs and objectives are, and to match their needs and objectives with the appropriate product and the appropriate lender. So, I would encourage anybody out there, applying for a loan is a minefield these days, and doing it on your own, I think you could spend a lot of hours and maybe still not get it right. There are a lot of experts out there that can do it for you, and most brokers in the industry these days do not charge a fee. They get paid commission from vendors such as ourselves and the banks to provide that service. And so, why wouldn't you take advantage of it?
Sorry about this. My printer's going off for some reason. I think the problem with the home office. I think someone else must have decided they wanted to print something out. And so sorry about the background noise there. I can't struggle to mute myself too. I'm all in a frenzy, all in a flutter. But, so options are great. Comes down to a bit of personality. Comes down to what suits your needs and where you're at. And it's about having a little bit of knowledge, trusting the person you're at, making sure that you've got a good relationship and can talk to those.
And to get yourself finance ready, Phil, it's as simple as making sure you've got all the standard stuff in order. So what I mean by that is making sure that you've got a history of paying debts on time, or if there has been a hiccup, that it's something that is justifiable. Lenders appreciate that people do come up with challenges from time to time. And that could be a lifestyle event. It could be someone who's a perfect payer their whole entire life, but have had something like sickness or a death in the family, or a divorce is another classic example. So if there's some things that you can sort of date stamp and say that was the issue, and you can prove that, and you're a good payer before, and you look like you've got over that event, you're a good payer again, there's going to be options for you. But that's getting yourself finance ready, is making sure everything's in order. Have good accounts, as far as have your financials in order. If they're not in order, as Tamara mentioned before, there are lenders such as us who will look at people on an alternative income verification, but that means they still have to have things such as management accounts up to date, or have recent business activity statements that have been compiled and lodged, things to that effect. So it's just making sure you've got yourself in order. The other thing that comes up quite regularly, Phil, it still surprises us these days, is identification. So your personal identification.
Wow.
People use variants. They might be Giuseppe on one document, it might be Joe on another. And that causes no end of challenges for brokers, customers, and lenders alike. So just making sure the identification documents that you have are all the same, and so forth is a major help.
Very good. Now, I know Chris mentioned about property and security and values and ratios and all that sort of stuff. And I just want to make everyone aware, again, if you just go into the back catalogue, we had Zeno on, and he was telling us how to get an extra 20% out of your property. So there's a couple of our episodes that if you want to go back and listen to, will actually help you when you go and see the guys, Tamara and Adrian from RedZed. So also the sensational RoB Academy, we talk about that, and that's part of the reason for the webinar. And I know that there is a number of episodes on the RoB Academy, and within it that can actually help businesses make sure they are finance ready, and help them generate the most profit as they can, because that's what the RoB Academy is all about. But specifically E-Class 2 and 3, which is about our five-step profit formula and setting goals and whatnot for your business. E-Class 4 is about achieving those goals. There's a number 14, I think it is. The video talks all about the bulletproof marketing equation, which is going to make sure you're actually generating some cash in your business. Number 18 is about improving your profits.
He's done his research.
And 23 is all about measuring results. So I think if you go through all those, they're going to really help you. And instead of getting some cash to survive, you might have to be able to go and get some cash to grow and thrive. So I suggest to all your listeners to make sure you get on there, and there's be some great information in the RoB Academy there as well.
Sounds like a great library there. I might be sitting up late tonight, Phil.
Exactly, man. And if you join the RoB Academy, Adrian, you'll have access to there as well. So
yeah, I think he's got ideas looking over Tamara's shoulder. I think that's what's going on here. Yeah.
So in the first meeting, if we could just keep it pretty. In the first meeting, what have I got to be? What's that all about? Is it just a meet and greet, or is it fact finding, or what's our first meeting going to be about?
Yeah, the fact finding is the big part of what we do these days, and that's brokers alike and lenders. We have an obligation now to really spend quality time with every applicant and get a real good understanding of their position. And then we've got an obligation to verify it. But the first meeting really is all about finding out who you are, what your needs and objectives are, and what we may or may not be able to do for you. It's if anybody's used a financial planner in the past, their industry was regulated well and truly before ours, and if you've ever been to see one, you spend a lot of time there, and it seems like they're filling out pages and pages and pages of information. We're not quite to that level, but we're not far behind. And I think that's great, because I've seen, unfortunately, I'm going to admit, I've been in banking and finance for 30 years. I know I only look 30, but I can tell you,
you're a lifer.
So I think there's been some change, and over the years, I've unfortunately had a lot of people put into facilities that just weren't right for them, and it cost them a lot of money. So I think regulation in our industry has been great. It does mean that we do have to spend more time with our customers, which is, again, a great thing.
Yep.
Making sure ultimately the customer at the end of the day is getting the right product for them, not only for now, but setting them on their path for the future as well.
Right.
And I must confess, I spent a good, 10 or a dozen years in banking finance there. So, and that was actually one of the main reasons that drove me to do what I'm doing now, and to help small businesses make more money, because I actually got a bit frustrated having to say no to people who had some good opportunities, but weren't actually making the most of those opportunities by employing some of the strategies and whatnot that are in the RoB Academy. So all the pitfalls and all the bits and pieces, that's why I'm keen to get people in the best position, so that lenders like yourselves can actually give them a nod and say, yes, here you go, because cash makes everything grow and keep moving, and sometimes it's you need that injection now rather than waiting, and the savings plan doesn't quite happen as quickly as the lending can get it there. Now, one thing that is a bit frustrating, and so I know you two guys, you're in retail, right? And you're in sales, and you're the good people. We love you. Everyone loves you. But what about credit? Do you guys have your own credit there, or do you deal with is credit solution orientated, or how does that relationship work?
Yeah, well, we do have a credit team with RedZed, so.
Do you associate with them?
We do, absolutely.
Oh.
I pretty much sit next to them day in,
See
day
you're
out,
going there, Phil.
it has its bonuses in some cases, but yeah.
Yeah.
Look, credit and sales, it's important that they get along. One of the key things that we've done in our business, most of the sales people we've employed have had a credit background as well. So it's ensuring that we understand both sides of the fence. And, credit's there to fulfill a function. They're not there to just, not the ogres that a lot of people think that are just knocking their deals. They're trying to not only protect, the business, i.e. RedZed in this instance, but also there to protect the customer. Sometimes people just shouldn't borrow the money at the levels of money that they're wanting to borrow. And they get caught up in the passion of whether it's buying their McMansion or whether it is borrowing too much money and continually going back to the well to invest in something that they maybe shouldn't. So sometimes, they are a good source of being able to, put the brakes on in areas that need to. But yes, look, RedZed do. Yeah, we are a fully fledged non-bank lender. We have our own funding, we have our own credit department, our own customer service, our own front end.
Yeah. So, and as far as that, some of those issues would get resolved, I would imagine in your first meeting, if people were biting off a little bit more than they could chew, or weren't quite looking where they were, you wouldn't actually need to get to credit. You guys would head that off and set them in the right direction, and maybe even send them to the RoB Academy or the RoB Network to get a few more business partners and get their business booming again.
Absolutely, Bill, absolutely. And look, when we were talking before about being finance ready, one thing I would encourage all of your members and anybody they may be speaking to is, when you're talking to a financier or a broker, is in that first meeting, put everything on the table, warts and all, whatever it might be, because there are options out there today. It's not just mainstream bank who may, be very black and white and you may not qualify. There are so many options out there for finance these days. But the most important thing is to put all the story out up front. As I said, warts and all, and a mortgage broker or, a specialist lender like us will look at that. And as long as it makes sense, the chances are that there will be a funding solution for you. It might be a unique solution, but there generally will be something out there that will be able to satisfy them.
So don't let pride get in the way. Don't self-assess. Get in there and have the conversation.
Absolutely, yeah. Because eventually, unfortunately, sometimes if something's hidden or not disclosed fully, it generally comes out. And lenders work on the premise that if there's non-disclosure in an application, or it's generally one strike and you're gone type thing. You don't get a second option. So, but I always encourage people to don't be afraid to put your situation out there and be 100% honest. There will be solutions for you, and it's a lot better that way than cutting off all your solutions by not being upfront.
Just on that though, what are things that are red flags, or would start that pathway? Like, what are things to look out for that people should identify? Because sometimes maybe it's obvious, but other times it may not be obvious what those things are. So
yeah, obviously, the obvious ones are things such as impaired credit, so past problems that they've had to overcome. And they may not be upfront with that, and they look down the path of a certain product and a certain price and conditions, and then obviously those things are found out and it changes the landscape completely. So again, it's better having those conversations up front, so your financier or your mortgage broker can find the right solution to match that. That's sort of that's one of the more obvious ones. The other thing is defects with your property. There could be some issues with the security property. Right. They don't tell us up front, and we send a valuer out there and we've wasted a lot of time and effort assessing an application, engaging a valuer for him to go out and say, oh, there's no bathroom or a kitchen, it's been pulled out.
Okay. Yep.
Things to that effect are critical. So, you know, they're the sort of the main obvious ones, that's for sure. And the other is really just the purpose of the money. You know, again, if you've got a self-employed person, just a normal consumer, and some of your members may have experienced this, you know, you go to a bank and the bank can be quite rigid in what they will and won't accept as far as the purpose of a loan. In particular with self-employed, they generally won't allow you to, say, draw money in a personal name against your own home to invest in your business. They're very, very restrictive on that. So unfortunately, some people get educated in that, and then they try and come up with, you know, oh no, I'm not using it for business, I'm using it for these other purposes. And again, if that's found out, it could hinder their ability to borrow. Whereas again, there's lenders such as us out there that we're not fussed, as long as for any worthwhile, legitimate reason, you know, we will fund against it. So we much prefer that they're upfront and tell us if they need, you know, $200,000 to buy some cheap stock that they've got access to that will really help their business. Sure, as long as it makes sense, we'll look at funding it for them. So again, I just say honesty is the key.
For sure. So on that, how do they tell those stories in a better way? Because I mean, obviously we talked about the RoB Academy, the numbers can do some work for you, but some of this is, I guess, emotional in the sense of what they're trying to do, or an opportunity type situation like you talked about. So what are some more examples like that? I think it's useful for businesses to identify what could be a good story to tell a lender. So.
Well, look, I suppose I'll elaborate on what I was just mentioning there, and because this happens to us quite regularly, where an application will come to us with, you know, with somebody's set income at the moment, yet, you know, if they can access some capital in their property, they have access to some cheaper cost of goods, or it might be another contract that they can actually pick up, which will ultimately improve their bottom line. So providing that sort of information and being honest what the money is being used for, presenting that as part of the picture of the application form. And again, you know, we try and work on a common sense basis, and that is, you know, we look at things individually. We don't use a computer to make a decision. We, you know, we'll assess that information, and so the more that can be provided in those sort of examples, and you know, from what you're saying, there's a lot of things with the RoB Academy as far as, you know, being able to present a business case and working on your numbers. Putting that up front is paramount. You know, we're more than happy to support people and use the equity in their property to give them that cash to enable them to advance their business.
Right.
And if someone comes in and says to you, I've got a coach on board, does that give you any more comfort?
Are you looking for a side gig, Phil, are you?
I'm just trying to say, you know, to tell people if they've got a coach on board, they might get a bit more comfort for this.
If you can put your name down, Phil, would be more than happy to do it.
That's it. Just give myself a bit of a plug.
Yeah, look, absolutely. So, you know, we see people that come to us that have had some past credit challenges, and if we know they are working with some recognised business that is there to actually help people. You've probably seen someone on the TV, you know, My Debt Solutions and places like that. So, yeah, look, if somebody's using a business coach, if they've got some guidance, that, you know, it paints the picture of who the business owner is and what they're doing in their business. It all bodes well for it.
Now, just don't want to get too technical here, but you did mention before about guarantees. I think when you were talking there about, did you mention about guarantees?
But I'm happy to talk guarantees.
Well, maybe guarantees. So maybe it was, I think you mentioned about not being able to borrow against the property or whatnot, but maybe that's what triggered my mind about guarantees. So can you let us know, because a lot of people go, oh, well, mum and dad might say, look, I've got some property, I'll help you in your business. What are the attributes or what are the requirements of a guarantor, and what are the pitfalls, I suppose, for the actual person that's doing the guaranteeing?
Yeah, another really good question, Phil. Well done. You can see your past banking and finance experience coming out. Yeah, look, guarantees these days are a bit of a minefield. Parents, you know, in the past, obviously, go back 10, 20, 30 years, parents were up their houses.
Lost you there.
Yeah, just lost you there a bit, Adrian.
Oh, sorry, did you? Is that better?
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry
That's
about
better.
that.
Thanks for
That's
that.
all right. Yeah, I was just going to say, look, go back, sort of 10, 20 years, and, parents regularly were putting up their security or their assets to help their children get a foothold in the property market. Those times have changed. In our new regulated environment, it's a lot tougher these days. There really needs to be some sort of benefit for the parents in the transaction. So, and that's hard to prove. There are a couple of funders out there that do have some unique structures around the loans. One of our competitors has a product which they call their parent-to-child loan, which is quite unique. So there are a couple of options out there, but look, it's not these days. It's not an easy finance solution. And what we tend to see happen these days is the children might go and borrow 80, 90, 95% of the value of the property if they can get that through a mainstream lender, and mum and dad might just take out a loan against their property and gift them the cash. That tends to happen. We see that happen a fair bit these days, rather than bringing in a guaranteed position. The parents qualify for a loan in their own right, and they take some money and that they want to gift it to their children, then they're more than welcome, obviously. But the lenders are very reluctant to pull on a parent's property as collateral security and have that property potentially at risk if the children don't pay their facilities. So it's a tough one these days. Phil?
Yeah, for sure. And I know even when it comes to people handing over a family business and when the parents wanting out and how that all gets financed around too, that's another complex matter, which I'm sure you guys will be all over.
Absolutely.
Too hard for me. I'm just a humble coach. Now, I did mention earlier that you've got an amazing opportunity for members of the RoB Academy and people in general. Did you want to let us know a little bit about that now? Or
I'll bring it up. We'll get the drum roll and I'll bring it over. There it is. It's on the screen. So,
don't you love technology?
Even got a URL in there for you.
So don't be shy, guys. What does that mean?
Yeah, so look, Meet the Master is a competition that we've been running for, this will be our third year. So I suppose just if I go back a step, at RedZed, we pretty much are a business that was established sort of 13 years ago for the sole purpose of actually helping self-employed Australians with their finance needs. So self-employed are dear to our heart, and obviously hence why Tamara's got involved with with RoB as well. Obviously, it's a lot of self-employed people trying to progress their businesses and the like. But what Meet the Master is, it's basically a competition that's open to any self-employed Australian. It could be somebody who's a day in their business to somebody who's been running their business for 40 years. But the premise of it is we want to support self-employed in doing whatever we can to help them advance their business. So Meet the Master is just any self-employed Australian. I said, and we encourage all of your members to enter. It's pretty much tell us who in your industry do you look up to, who inspires you, who is the person. If there was nothing holding you back, who's the one person you would like to meet that you believe could help you in your business to progress your business further. And as I said, it's open to anybody. It surprises us. We don't sort of get the level of entries that we think, because people think there's a catch. There's no catch. Basically, what we do is we look at the entries that come through every year. We've had some very unique ones, that's for sure. We get our standard ones where people want to meet Richard Branson or and the like. But it's pretty much, we'll go through and if we try and make contact with these nominated masters, and the idea is we'll fly the winner anywhere around the world to go and spend time with their master in their business, and hopefully bring back to Australia their learnings that'll help them improve their business going forward.
So you mentioned this is a fantastic opportunity. You mentioned this is your third year. So no one come and saw me in year 1 and year 2. So I'm wondering who they went and saw.
Yeah, so well, I'm surprised, Bill, because you're a larger than life character, and I'm surprised you weren't nominated. Maybe it's because they weren't going overseas to see you.
Yeah, it might have been it.
Wasn't worth the trip. So, yeah, look, I think Tamara actually was joined our first winner over in Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia, US.
Yep.
Amazing. Tuffy Stone, I'm not sure if you know the name, but he's a world-class barbecuer. So we flew the first winner of Meet the Master over to him.
What's his name?
Chad. So we had Chad and Tuffy for our first Meet the Master.
Yeah, very good.
So Chad ran his own barbecuing business here in Australia, and he wanted to meet the world champion, Tuffy Stone, world champion barbecuer from America. So we flew him over to do that, and then last year it was a dairy. I can't remember the gentleman's name.
I know, it's just like my mind as well.
No, I love it. Like that's
look, it's open again. I think entries still open for another couple of weeks.
I put it on the RoB website as well.
So there's zero obligation.
Zero obligation.
Zero obligation.
Zero obligation.
Are you going to
available.
send us through a heap of spam if we put our stuff on, or are you just going to give us a bit of information, or what's going to happen there?
Not at all. We won't be sending you a lot of spam or anything like that.
No,
basically, the only thing we do is we send you over, as I said, 5 days, I think it is, and we'll send a camera crew with you and somebody from RedZed, and basically we just film the experience. And I'll get Tamara to also share the link with the stories that we've created for our first 2 winners, just to give you a feel for what we've actually done.
So I've done it actually on my page in the RoB website. So I've updated that today.
Oh, great, fantastic. Yep, I sent links.
Yeah,
to
well,
it.
that is a great opportunity. You know, I don't like to bang on about it, but it is a great tool. I think if you go to the RoB Academy and follow the conversion equation, that might help you with your 100. Was it 100 words?
It is.
I believe it is 100 words.
100 words or less to let them know who you want to meet and why. Remembering that a good headline will get you read, or give you a good thing of getting read. So
Get noticed.
Academy can even help you, with the help of RedZed, meet your master as well. So
with your guidance,
fantastic opportunity for everyone in business.
With your guidance, I've got no doubt a RoB member could win this.
Yes, you never know. Yeah, well, we're coming up to closing time. Time flies, so there you go. We're at the end of our journey. But is there anything else you guys like to share as a sign-off? Like, is there anywhere else? Obviously, Meet the Masters somewhere else, but is there anywhere else we can find you online, or things we should be doing after watching this today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, if any of your members there have got want to talk through potential finance solutions, yeah, they can contact Tamara, either, you know, on I think on her page we'll have our office number, or just visit RedZed.com on there as well. We'll be happy to have a chat to them. But now, look, from my point of view, I just thank you for giving us the opportunity. I know Tamara is thoroughly enjoying her membership with RoB, meeting some wonderful people, and it's great that we can contribute back and give you some, hopefully give you some help for some of your members.
I couldn't put the words better myself.
There you go.
Well, it's been great to have you guys here and sharing your knowledge and providing the opportunity. Chris,
Thank you.
Yes,
great
sir.
to have you here. No
Yes,
driving
it's been great to sit back and enjoy. Yeah, it was quite entertaining. And as always, Phil, you were entertaining and sensational. I love your word, sensational.
Thanks very much. So next week, who are we speaking with next week, Chris?
Nicole Ashby we're going to meet with, and she's going to teach us how to get free media, which is always useful. So, yeah.
Publicity.
Lives,
We'll listen to that.
5:15 here.
next week.
Free publicity, free media, 5:15 Wednesday night, thanks to the RoB Network and the RoB Academy.
Yes,
Thanks, guys.
fantastic. No, thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Catch you around, Phil.
Bye.
See you soon. Catch up. Alrighty. Fantastic. Stop. There we go.
All right.